everybody, Howard here with a slow blues in the key of D. In fact, I'm using a drop D tuning on this, which I'll talk about in a second. This is another one of those combining rhythm and lead licks and fills, but this one's a little bit different because most of these fills are going to be within the chords themselves, or at least closely tied to the chords, okay? So I'm using a really clean tone on my telly. I'm plugged into my Orange Crush practice amp. I've got a little bit of delay on it, as you can tell. About that fast, just to give it a little bit of ambience, okay? Ambiance. So anyway, I'm in a drop D tuning, so of course we want to bring the 6th string, the E string, down a whole step to D, an octave away from your D string, an octave lower, or you can just use a tuner, of course. So what I'm going to do is what I usually do. I'm going to play through the piece in its entirety, and then we're going to break it down measure by measure, phrase by phrase, chord by lick by everything, okay? All right, so here we go. Okay, so let's dive right into it. First up, we have an opening phrase, an opening lick, which happens on the 4th beat. 1, 2, 3, 4. And that's a triplet feel, right? You can see it on the tab, but I'm sliding from 5 to 7 on the 6th string, and then 3 to 5 on the A string. And then we're slipping into a D7 sharp 9 chord, which you can see on the screen and the tab. And starting with that drop D tuning, the 6th string, we're just arpeggiating the chord, doubling up the B string and the G strings at the end there. And then we play this lick. Once again, nice and slow with the tab. So that whole opening phrase is... Notice I just let that 6th string, that drop D string, just ring right through that whole phrase, sort of connecting the chord and everything together. And then we're going right into a G7 chord, which is fingered differently than normally because of the drop D tuning. You can see the shape on the screen. But what I've got here is my ring finger on the 5th fret on the 6th string, and then I'm barring the first 4 strings, the E, the B, the G, and the D, and of course, my 2nd finger is placed in the 4th fret on that G string. And then you can see what happens on the tab, but I'll do it nice and slow. So we do that hammer on and then finish off through the rest of the chord shape. Now what you're trying to do here is hold the chord down while you play a phrase within the chord. So let me do that whole thing nice and slow. So you can see it's all rapid, but right inside that chord shape. All right, so now we have fun to play. And then we're back to the one chord, the D chord, and you can see what's happening on the tab, but nice and slow. I'm playing. And we walk into the G7 chord again. So you want to catch that off of this when you're coming back, right? So let me do that slow as well. Into that G7 shape again, and we're doing basically the same thing, just slightly differently, right? So we're adding the movement on the first E string into it as well. You can see it on the tab, of course, but here it is slowly. And we walk those double stops, okay? But again, you want to keep your fingers on that chord, letting as many strings ring through as you can before you start physically moving. Okay, and then we're back to the one chord, of course, and we're doing a bit of a hybrid picking here. The lick itself is actually, but we hit that open, what is now a D string, the 6th string. Again, I'm using hybrid picking, and I'm continually playing the 10th fret on the E string. And then I switch to the G and the D strings together. So we have. Okay, and again, letting that open string ring really sounds great. A string of double stops at the end, all the while, once again, emphasizing letting that string ring. So then we play this whole phrase nice and slow, and you can see it on the tab as well. So what happened there was I hit that open string again after that phrase. On the D string for that D octave, and then it's another string of double stops, this time descending. So that whole section is played like so. And then we make our way to the 5 chord, which in our case here would be an A7, so you're going to finger that exactly how we did the G7, but up a whole step, right? And this 5-4 to the turnaround in this particular tutorial is the same each time, so that's kind of good news, right? You don't have to learn a bunch of different 5-4 configurations. But you can see it on the tab. It's pretty easy once you've mastered the G7, that is. So here we go. Now that's really important, the last 2 notes, because that's walking us down to the 4 chord, okay? So you can catch that any way you want to with one finger or by putting your middle finger down, but that's kind of the way I do it. Into the G7. And of course, we're not doing, we're just going right to the note that's already within the chord, the 3rd fret on the D string. So let me do that slowly as well. Okay, and that takes us to the turnaround. So I think on this one we're just keeping that D octave on the B string at the 3rd fret and descending on the A string, 5, 3, 2, 1, open, okay? So I think the best picking on that is down, up, down, and then use that with each step of the way. Let that open A string ring out, and we're playing an A7 chord here, which you can see on the screen. And I'm I'm just kind of sliding into it. And we're doing a simple arpeggiation, which you can see on the tab. So that whole turnaround then is... So I'll play that from the 5 to the 4 chord for continuity, and so you can really hear how it works. Okay, so let's get into the next 12 bars, okay? We're using an inverted D chord, 4 on the D string, 5 on the G string, 3 on the B string, and 5 on the first E string, and we're doing that same type of arpeggiation. Let as many strings ring as you can, hold on to your pinky, and play the lick. So we have... time. And then we're just going to play a simple boogie pattern, but of course we're in drop D, so we simply bar across the 5th and 6th strings at the 5th fret, and we're walking the A string 7 to 8. Right? Each of those gets 2 strikes of the pick, except for the very last one. And I muted that a little bit when I played it in the demo, so feel free to do that. It sounds kind of nice and punchy. Right? Do that little bluesy kind of quarter step bend off of the 6th string at the 3rd fret, and then right back into that D7 chord being arpeggiated again. I came back to the D7 chord and played exactly the same thing, okay? And then we do another string of double stops, this time ascending. And once again, with that drop D tuning, it sounds really sweet and it's a little bit different to play. We are back to the 4 chord again, the G7, and it's the same idea. We're trying to hold down the shape and play what's inside of it. By now I'm guessing you've kind of got a handle on it, so you can see the tab on the screen, and I'll just play what we're doing here. So you can see I'm using that pinky to walk back and forth across the D strings and the A string. We're back to the 1 chord, the D7, and what we're doing here is we're just walking from a 7th, a dominant 7th, to a 13th, to a 7th again. You can see it on the tab, but the way you want to do this is basically bar across the first 4 strings, okay? With your first finger, placing your 2nd finger on the 11th fret on the G string, and then you can walk with your pinky or your ring finger as well, but you're walking 13, 12 to 10, 10 already being there underneath your index finger. And I think cross picking is best on that. Down, 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 up, up, down, up, up, down, up, up, down. And you play it twice. You play this twice as well. And as stated earlier, that 5 to the 4 is always the same. It's exactly as we played it the first time. Okay, and we play the closing phrase. So we want to hit that 6th string and let it ring out, and we play this. And with a little bit of hybrid picking, use your finger for the B string and your pick for the D string, and do a hammer. So you want a bar for sure, and then hammer up to the 4th fret on the D string. Then E flat 9, partial E flat 9 to a full D9. Okay. So there you go with a slow blues in the key of D, combining chords with various licks and phrases. Okay, I hope you enjoyed it. I'll run the performance again at the end here so you can kind of see it and hear it in its entirety. And I hope to see you guys in the next video. So all the best to everyone.